Greetings, namaste, and welcome to Astrology Awakening. I'm doing a coming in hot Mercury Retrograde drop for y'all. And this is going to be a quick one, in and out, to give you some pro tip, semi-pro tip hacks on how to optimize Mercury in retrograde through what we call shadow periods. So I'm going to get right into it. Of course, Mercury retrograde is the most well-known and ballyhooed of the retrogrades, but all the planets, the grahas, Saturn, Mars, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter, all have retrograde motions. The only ones that don't are the luminaries, the sun and the moon, who have a almost clock-like regularity. So when these grahas go retrograde, it is a karmic moment for the world in general. And if you have these particular planets retrograde in your chart, it's particularly potent for y'all. So Mercury in retrograde is every few months goes retrograde. So this is why we probably know it well, because when the computers go on the fritz and people's communications get askew, the classic saying is Mercury must be in retrograde. So there are some better moments for Mercury in retrograde and some worser moments, and I would say that this particular Mercury in retrograde is going to be great overall. And that's why I wanted to make sure I get this out so you could use the information ahead of time, because Mercury actually doesn't go retrograde until September 10th, but I'm dropping this around mid-August. The reason being, the shadow period is the precursor to the retrograde. So what happens with a retrograde is, in terms of the degree, in terms of the transit itself, is the planet moves by degree backwards. So I'm going to throw up some charts for in a minute and show how this goes. What happens is almost like time travel. So on August 20th, the shadow period begins. So what this means is when Mercury actually goes retrograde, it's going to, by degree, return to this date. Meaning that everything that happens from August 20th until September 10th, when Mercury actually goes retrograde, will be revisited in some way, will be brought back into new context, new information will be revealed. This is particularly with Mercury, because Mercury is the planet that rules communication, data, intellectual understanding, and amongst many other things that have to do with the brain and the spinal system and how all that works. And Mercury is probably the most underappreciated because it's really, next to the moon, the most unique to a chart because it moves so fast. So that's a tangent. But anyway, so Mercury in this particular retrograde will spend the entirety, and I mean like as much as possible, in its favorite house, Virgo. So not only does Mercury rule Virgo, as it does Gemini, but Virgo is Mercury's multicone sign. So it gets the superpower of Virgo here. And Virgo is the natural sixth house. So the sixth house rules your day-to-day activities, any kind of conflict, any kind of competition, any kind of dealing with health issues. So this is going to be a theme for everyone when Mercury goes retrograde in its own house, in the sixth house of Virgo. So what we can basically do to optimize this whole situation. Three parts. First part is the shadow period. So from August 20th until September 10th. This is when you should be paying attention to what's going on, because it's going to be recontextualized and reimagined with new information pouring in once the whole entire retrograde is complete. So that happens on October 2nd. Now you may think you're completely out of the woods, but what's going to happen is Mercury has returned to basically the 0 degree point of Virgo. Now it has to get back to about the 14 or 15 degree point of Virgo before it catches back up to where it went retrograde on September 10th. So this is the third part. So the first part is the shadow period. The second part is the retrograde itself. And the third part is the shadow retrace. And this is where that new information will definitely get revealed during, or if not by the end, which happens October 17th. So I'll also say this about the very beginning of when Mercury goes into Virgo, the first few days, particularly I'm going to show August 23rd as a kind of banner day. This is a unique situation because every planet and luminary, and the moon, sun, they all have a house to themselves. So it's sort of like a breathing room or a great time to catch one's breath cosmically, because it's a nice arrangement. In fact, Venus and Mars are the only planets that won't be in some sort of lordship or exaltation. Venus will actually be in the moon's house. Mars will be in Venus's house. And this brings a very feminine energy to bear on the whole beginning of this transit. So look for energies that express themselves uncharacteristically. So masculine energies that will try to be domineering and fiery. And I don't mean men, I mean this can be in women too. Might come across as ineffectual or effeminate. So it's an interesting time to experiment, especially with, I'm certainly I'm still learning how to utilize and optimize, and eventually the idea is to not be afraid of the Mercury in retrograde or the Saturn in retrograde, and utilize these points, these karmic knots, to execute plans that you want to do in eccentric, unusual ways, because that's what a retrograde is. It's sort of a crooked path. It's actually not backwards. It's more of a non-linear or asymmetrical. So this is the kind of energy that one needs to approach the elements in your life during these retrograde periods. So for instance, traveling. So if you traveled during the shadow period, what would happen? You're recontextualizing for those few weeks from August 20th till Mercury goes retrograde on September 10th. Then it goes back over that, and so you're back home during the retrograde, say. And this is going to bring in new information, but it's not going to make you repeat things that you will have to do in that context of your home. You may get a message from somebody you met while traveling. So this is just me, like literally in the moment, spitting and spitballing ways to use to optimize this Mercury in retrograde. And this particular one should be definitely monitored, because it's overall going to be for a retrograde transit a pretty sweet situation. So I wish everyone a very late summer, as this will bring us into the fall period and some more retrogrades to talk about. And until then, blessings.